My boyfriend's sister somehow knew exactly what I was doing while I was doing it, so I used her own knowledge to destroy her. Me and my boyfriend were about to have intimacy for the first time when we heard a knock at the door. I peered from across the hall and saw it was his sister. "Oh, sorry if I interrupted anything. It's just so cozy here with the lighting like this." She glanced at the dimmed lights and the vanilla candle I'd just lit. "Perfect for Monopoly. Unless you and Apple were in the middle of something, Bunny." She called her brother that, and my blood went cold. Bunny was the name I called Noah when we were alone, never in front of anyone. Before either of us could say anything, she shoved past us and started setting up the game in the living room. I tried to be nice since Noah always said Danielle was going through a rough time, but my mind was racing. How could she possibly know that nickname? But then halfway through, while Noah was in the bathroom, she casually mentioned how much she loved the show. Love is Blind. My heart went cold. That show was my guilty pleasure, one that I only watched on my laptop while Noah was at work. The episode where the mom finds out about the affair? Do you know it? My stomach twisted because I'd literally just watched that episode. But how did she even know I watched that show? I only streamed it on my laptop with headphones. The next day I got my period. No one but Noah knew about it. I hadn't even called out of work yet. So when Danielle texted me the next morning and exclaimed, "Had the strangest dream about you bleeding last night. Hope you're okay." My hands literally went cold holding my phone. The timing was too perfect. I tried to bring it up to Noah that evening, keeping my voice light like I was just curious. But immediately his whole body changed like I'd never seen before. Jaw tight, shoulders stiff. She's always had a hard time making friends. I'm all she has. And you're my first serious girlfriend. So this is really hard on her. His voice cracked a little on that last part. So I tried. I really freaking tried. I invited her to our movie nights, our Sunday brunches, everything. But then this pattern started that I couldn't ignore. Every single romantic dinner we planned, and I mean everyone, Danielle would suddenly get devastating stomach cramps exactly 30 minutes before our reservation. Noah would have to rush over with medicine and heating pads. The worst part was how stubborn Noah was on rationalizing everything. "She used to be my +1 for everything," he'd say, like that explained how she seemed to know every detail of our lives. Meanwhile, her behavior was escalating in ways that made my skin crawl. I posted our anniversary photo, just a simple selfie of us at dinner, and within an hour she'd posted a whole carousel of childhood pictures. Her and Noah in the bathtub as toddlers. The two of them slow dancing at some middle school formal, her head on his chest. She posted those within an hour, like she was watching my Instagram in real time. The caption made me want to throw up. "No one will ever know you like your day one." After that post, I needed distance from her, which is why I pushed so hard for the Costa Rica trip. We'd been saving for 6 months, taking overtime shifts and skipping takeout. Our flights were booked, hotels paid for, everything perfect. Until 2 days before leaving, when my phone lit up with Noah calling from his car, I could hear Danielle hyperventilating in the background. "She says she can't live without me for a whole week," he said, and I already knew what was coming. "She's having a panic attack, April. A real one. I've never seen her like this." We canceled the trip, lost 75% of our money, 2 days before our flight, the exact window to lose the most money. That night she posted a photo of us, except I was cropped out, with the caption, "Nothing better than sibling time." When I showed him, Noah looked genuinely torn and said, "I love you so much, but she's fragile and I'm scared of what she'll do." So I kept it together for Noah, until the day I was sitting on the toilet and decided to play Candy Crush. I hadn't played in months, and I'd last made it to level 367. But when the game loaded, my heart dropped. I was suddenly on level 950. An awful gut feeling washed over me. And after doing some digging, I found an app I didn't recognize buried in my accessibility settings. Family Safety Monitor. I googled it with my laptop. It was black market spyware that mirrors everything. Texts, photos, searches, even deleted content. And it can see through your camera. And guess when it was installed? 4 months ago. Right after Danielle helped me fix my phone when it was acting weird that one time. I sat there for an hour, half dissociating, half deciding what to do. The obvious answer was to call the cops, but I'm Mexican with no proof that this was her. She'd cry about being worried, wanting to be close, and they'd call it family drama. That's when the idea hit me. If she was watching everything on my phone, I could use that against her. I scheduled a fake appointment at Planned Parenthood and texted my mom, "Noah doesn't know yet, but I'm pregnant. I'm going to abort this." 15 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. It was Danielle. "Isn't there something Noah should know?" I stand there with my hand still on the doorknob, keeping my face completely blank even though my heart is racing. So fast I can feel it in my throat. Danielle's eyes are locked on mine, searching for any crack in my expression, any sign that I know what she's talking about. I can see her getting more confused by the second, because I'm not reacting the way she expected. I take a slow breath and tell her that Noah and I are doing great, and there's nothing we need to discuss right now. She opens her mouth to say something else, but I'm already stepping back and closing the door. Not slamming it, but firm enough that she knows the conversation is over. The second I hear the lock click into place, I'm pulling out my phone with shaking hands and opening the clock app to check the exact time. 8:47 p.m. I take a screenshot of it, then I go to my messages and screenshot the fake text I sent to my mom. 15 minutes. She showed up exactly 15 minutes after I sent that text, which means she saw it in real time and immediately drove over here. I save both screenshots to a new folder on my phone that I label Evidence, and my hands are still trembling, but now it's from this weird mix of fear and something else. Anger, maybe. Or just this cold determination settling into my bones. I open my messages again and type out the word pineapple to my mom, our agreed-upon safe word that means everything I say from now on might be fake. The 3 dots appear almost immediately, and then her response pops up with a heart emoji. And the words, "I didn't tell anyone, sweetie." Reading that makes my eyes sting because my mom is the one person in all of this that Danielle can't touch or manipulate or use against me. I sit down on the couch and just breathe for a minute, trying to process what just happened and what it means. She's been watching everything on my phone for months, seeing every text and photo and search, and now I finally have proof that she's using that information. But I can't tell Noah yet because he'll just find some way to explain it away like he always does. I need more evidence, something so clear that even his protective instincts can't rationalize it. Noah comes home a little after 10 p.m. and I can hear how tired he is from the way he drops his keys on the counter and sighs. He walks into the living room and I watch his face carefully as he asks if Danielle stopped by earlier because she sent him some weird text about needing to talk to me. His first reaction isn't suspicion or concern about why she would show up unannounced. It's this automatic need to defend her and find an explanation. I can see it in the way his shoulders tense up and how he won't quite meet my eyes. I tell him, yeah, she stopped by, but it was nothing important. Just wanted to say hi. He looks like he wants to ask more questions, but he's too exhausted to push it. So he just nods and heads to the bathroom to shower. I sit there on the couch and make a decision right then. I'm not going to say anything to him about the spyware or my suspicions until I have evidence. So solid that even his need to protect his sister can't explain it away. I need to be smart about this, methodical, because if I accuse her without proof, then I'm the bad guy who's attacking his fragile sister. The next morning, I wake up before my alarm and can't fall back asleep, because my brain is already racing with everything I need to do. Noah leaves for his early shift around 6:30 a.m., and the second the door closes behind him, I'm up and making coffee. I sit down at our kitchen table with my laptop and start researching the Family Safety Monitor app, taking screenshots of every single thing I find. The permissions list makes my stomach turn, because it shows exactly what the app can do. It can see through my camera, read my deleted messages, track my location in real time, mirror everything to another device. I screenshot the install date that shows 4 months ago, right after Danielle helped me fix my phone when it was acting weird. I create a document and start organizing everything by date, writing notes about what each piece of evidence proves. The more I read about what this spyware can do, the more violated I feel, like she's been standing in my bedroom watching me for months. But I can't let myself fall apart right now. I channel all that sick feeling into cold determination and keep taking screenshots, keep building my case. During my lunch break at work, I find Vikram in the break room and ask if he can look at my phone privately. My hands are shaking a little when I say it, because asking for help makes this whole thing feel more real. Vikram has been my work friend for 2 years, and I trust him completely. But admitting out loud that someone has been spying on me is terrifying in a way I didn't expect. He can see something is seriously wrong from my face, and he immediately says yes. Of course he'll help. We go to an empty conference room, and I pull up the accessibility settings to show him the app. I watch his expression change as he scrolls through the permissions, his eyebrows pulling together and his mouth getting tight. He looks up at me and says this is definitely spyware, and it's mirroring everything to another device in real time. Then he tells me something I didn't expect. He says I need to keep the phone exactly as it is for now, because if I delete the app or change any settings, I could destroy the chain of evidence I'll need if this goes legal. Legal. The word makes my chest feel tight because I hadn't really let myself think that far ahead yet. After work, I stop at a convenience store 3 blocks from my apartment and buy the cheapest prepaid phone they have. I pay with cash and give a fake name when I activate it, feeling like I'm in some kind of spy movie, except this is my actual life. The burner phone is this cheap plastic thing that feels like a toy in my hand, but having it in my purse makes me feel like I'm finally taking back some small piece of control over my own privacy. Danielle can watch my regular phone all she wants now because I have a way to communicate that she can't see. I program in my mom's number and Vikram's number, and that's it. Nobody else needs to know about this phone yet. That evening, I'm sitting on the couch with my compromised phone, and I create a fake calendar event for tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. I title it Therapy Intake Appointment, and add it to a made-up address for a women's health center. In the notes section, I write, discussing relationship anxiety and communication issues with Noah, to make it look completely real and personal. Then I just sit there and wait to see what happens, my heart beating hard in my chest. I'm testing her again, seeing if she'll take the bait, and part of me is hoping she won't because that would mean I'm wrong about all of this. But another part of me, the part that's been feeling crazy and paranoid for months, needs to know for sure. I sit there staring at my phone, waiting to see what happens next. 23 minutes pass and I'm checking Instagram every few seconds, my thumb sliding over the screen again and again. Then Danielle's profile picture appears at the top of my story feed with that little colored ring around it. My stomach drops. I tap it and there's a quote post with a thinking face emoji. The text says something about how some people hide their problems instead of facing them. My hands go cold holding my phone because there's no way, absolutely no way she could know about that therapy appointment, unless she's watching my phone right this second. The appointment isn't real, but she doesn't know that, and she just proved everything I suspected. I screenshot her story immediately, making sure the timestamp shows in the corner. Then I open my photos and scroll through everything I need to save. The spyware permission screen gets screenshotted first, then the install date showing 4 months ago. I go back to Instagram and screenshot Danielle's story again with my calendar app open in the background, so you can see both timestamps side by side. My hands are shaking, but I keep going, saving every piece of proof I can find. I spend the next hour on my laptop creating a folder called Evidence and dragging everything into it. Each screenshot gets renamed with the date and a note about what it proves. The spyware install date goes in first, then the fake calendar event I created, then Danielle's Instagram story posted exactly 23 minutes later. I add a text document with notes about the timing and what each piece of evidence shows. Looking at it all laid out like this makes the pattern impossible to ignore. The next morning, I'm sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open, searching for privacy rights websites. I find a legal aid hotline number and my finger hovers over the call button for a full minute before I actually press it. The intake person who answers sounds tired but kind, and I tell her the whole story from the beginning. About the spyware, about Danielle knowing things she shouldn't know, about the fake pregnancy text and her showing up 15 minutes later. The woman listens without interrupting, and when I finish, she gives me a direct number for someone named Lena, who works as a privacy advocate. She says Lena deals with exactly this kind of digital harassment. Just hearing that there's a name for what's happening to me, that there are people who specialize in this, makes me feel less alone. I thank her and hang up. Then I stare at Lena's number for another few minutes before I save it in my contacts. 2 hours later, my phone rings with a number I don't recognize. I answer, and a calm voice says she's Lena, and she got my information from the legal aid hotline. We talk for 30 minutes about everything I've documented so far. She asks specific questions about the timing of each incident and what evidence I have for each one. When I tell her about my organized evidence folder, she sounds impressed. Then she tells me something that makes complete sense but I hadn't thought of yet. She says I need to keep building evidence before I make any accusations, because people like Danielle often have explanations ready for everything. She says I need to make the pattern so clear that nobody can rationalize it away, not even Noah. Following Lena's advice, I open the Notes app on my compromised phone that same afternoon. I type out this whole fake confession about feeling guilty for lying to Noah about wanting kids someday. I make it sound really personal and raw, like something I'd write in a private journal that I never wanted anyone to see. I write about how I told him I wanted a family, but I'm not sure if that's true anymore. I write about feeling trapped and scared to tell him the truth. Then I save it and close the app, my heart beating fast. That evening, Noah is watching TV in the living room and his phone buzzes on the coffee table. He picks it up and his face changes as he reads something. He looks over at me with this confused expression and holds out his phone. It's a text from Danielle saying she's worried about me and thinks he should check on what I really want for the future. The exact phrasing from my fake note. Noah asks me if everything's okay and if there's something I want to talk about. I force my face to stay neutral and tell him I don't know what Danielle is talking about. Everything's fine between us. While he's looking at me, I screenshot the text conversation over his shoulder, making sure to capture Danielle's message with the timestamp. Later that night, I add it to my evidence folder with a note about how she used almost the exact words from my private note. I try to bring it up with Noah the next morning while we're having coffee. I ask him if he thinks it's weird that Danielle texted him about my future plans right after I was thinking about that stuff. He immediately gets this defensive look on his face and his shoulders tense up. He says Danielle probably just sensed something was off because siblings have that kind of connection, that twin thing where they know what the other person is feeling. I want to scream at him that she's not psychic. She's watching my phone, but instead I just nod and say, okay. After he leaves for work, I open my evidence folder and add a new entry with the date and time, recording exactly what he said about the sibling connection. Watching him rationalize this away when the proof is right in front of him makes me feel so frustrated I could cry, but crying won't help. Building an undeniable case will help. The next morning, I meet Lena in person at a coffee shop downtown. She's in her 40s with gray streaks in her dark hair, and she has this calm energy that makes me feel safe. We sit in a corner booth and she pulls out a printed checklist. She walks me through everything I need to do next. Preserve all evidence and make backup copies. File a non-emergency police report to create an official record. Consider sending a formal no-contact letter to establish clear boundaries. She's so professional and matter-of-fact about it all. Like what's happening to me is serious enough to warrant these steps, but also something that can be handled. She doesn't make me feel crazy or paranoid. She makes me feel like I'm doing exactly the right thing by documenting everything carefully. For my next test, I open Photoshop on my laptop and create a fake screenshot of a dinner reservation confirmation. I make it look completely real with a confirmation number and everything. The restaurant is this fancy place downtown, and the reservation is for this Friday at 7 p.m. I save the fake screenshot to my phone's photo library, and then add it to my calendar with a note that says anniversary celebration. I even set a reminder for an hour before. Then I wait to see what happens. Friday comes and I'm watching the clock all afternoon. At 6:28 p.m., exactly 32 minutes before our fake reservation time, Noah's phone buzzes. He looks at it and his face falls. He shows me a text from Danielle about having severe stomach cramps and needing him to bring heating pads and medicine right away. The timing is so perfect, so precise, that I actually laugh out loud. It's this bitter sound that comes out of my throat before I can stop it. Noah looks at me confused and asks what's funny. I tell him nothing. It's just the same thing that always happens. He asks what I mean and I say nothing. Never mind. He should go help his sister. While he's grabbing his keys, I screenshot Danielle's text message, my fake reservation confirmation with all the metadata showing when I created the file and my calendar entry. I save everything in my evidence folder with a note that says, Pattern number 4, medical emergency time to dinner reservation. She's basically proving my case for me at this point, and she doesn't even know it. I grab my phone while Noah is still pulling on his jacket and rushing around looking for his keys. My fingers move fast, taking screenshot after screenshot. The text from Danielle with the timestamp showing 6:28 p.m. The fake reservation confirmation I made in Photoshop with all the file creation metadata visible. The calendar entry I added just this morning. I open my evidence folder and create a new note, typing quickly. Pattern number 4. Medical emergency timed exactly to dinner reservation. Fake reservation created this morning to test surveillance. I save everything and close my phone just as Noah kisses my forehead and tells me he'll be back in an hour. The door clicks shut behind him, and I sit there on the couch feeling this weird mix of satisfaction and sadness. She took the bait again. Perfectly timed. Exactly like I knew she would. The next morning, I wake up early and make myself coffee, sitting at the kitchen table and staring at my phone. I need to ask Aaron about the security footage, but my stomach is in knots about it. He's a nice guy, mid-50s with gray hair, and he's always been really respectful about tenant privacy. I'm scared he'll say no or think I'm being paranoid. But I force myself to walk downstairs to his office around 9 a.m. when I know he's usually doing paperwork. I knock on his door and he looks up from his computer with a friendly smile. I ask if I can talk to him about something kind of serious, and he gestures for me to sit down. My voice shakes a little as I explain that I'm documenting a harassment situation, and I need the hallway camera footage from last Tuesday night around 8:45 p.m. Aaron's face gets more serious and he asks if everything is okay, if I'm safe. I tell him I am, that I'm just building documentation in case I need to file a police report. He's quiet for a minute, thinking, and then he nods slowly. He says he can pull the footage, but he needs me to sign a form requesting it for legal purposes, and I agree immediately. That afternoon, around 3 p.m., I get an email from Aaron with 3 video files attached. My hands are literally shaking as I click the first one open. The footage is grainy black and white, but clear enough. It shows our apartment door and part of the hallway. I can see the timestamp in the corner, 8:35 p.m. Then at 8:39 p.m., Danielle appears in the frame. She's pacing back and forth in front of our door, checking her phone every few seconds. In the second video clip, she keeps pacing and checking her phone, looking agitated. The third clip shows her finally knocking on our door at 8:47 p.m., exactly 12 minutes after I sent that fake text to my mom. I save all 3 videos to my evidence folder and add detailed notes about the timing. This is concrete proof that she saw my text message in real time and rushed over immediately. I spend the next hour organizing everything in my laptop folder, making sure all the timestamps line up, making sure I have notes explaining what each piece of evidence shows. Then I take a deep breath and drive to the police station. My heart is pounding as I walk through the doors and approach the front desk. I ask if I can speak to someone about harassment and stalking, trying to keep my voice steady and calm. The officer at the desk asks me to wait, and a few minutes later, a woman in her 30s with dark hair pulled back comes out to meet me. She introduces herself as Officer Kenzie Jones and leads me to a small interview room. I sit down across from her and pull out my laptop, opening my evidence folder. Kenzie listens carefully as I walk her through everything. The spyware installation, the pattern of Danielle knowing things she shouldn't know, the tests I've run, the video footage. She takes notes the whole time and looks through each piece of documentation I show her. When I finish, she leans back in her chair and tells me that what I have definitely shows a clear pattern of surveillance and harassment. But then she explains that I need to establish formal boundaries first, before they can take stronger legal action. I feel my heart sink a little because I was hoping this would be enough for immediate help. Kenzie must see my face fall because she quickly adds that filing a report today creates an official record, which is really important. She explains that I should file a formal incident report right now, and then send Danielle a certified letter documenting my boundaries clearly. She says that if Danielle violates those boundaries after being formally told to stop, then we would have grounds for a restraining order. The legal process suddenly feels more real and more possible than it did before. I spend the next hour filling out forms and giving my statement to Kenzie. She's really professional and takes everything seriously, which makes me feel less crazy about all the documentation I've been doing. When I finally leave the station, I feel exhausted, but also weirdly empowered. That evening, I decide to run one more test before I confront Noah with everything. I open my streaming service app on the compromised phone and change my password. Then I search for a show called The Affair and add it to my watch list. I mark several episodes as watched, making it look like I've been binge-watching this show about cheating. I'm getting almost methodical about these tests now, each one building a stronger case that even Noah can't explain away with his excuses about sibling intuition. I set my phone down and start making dinner, checking the time. 8 minutes later, my phone buzzes with an Instagram notification. Danielle has posted a meme about people who watch shows about cheating because they're guilty themselves, with a bunch of side-eye emojis and laughing faces. The speed of her response is almost impressive in how obvious it is. I screenshot her post with the timestamp showing and add it to my evidence folder, noting that it came exactly 8 minutes after I added the show to my watch list. The next day during my lunch break, I meet Vikram at a coffee shop near our office. He's already ordered us both sandwiches, and he looks concerned when I sit down. I show him all my evidence and explain what the police said about needing documentation. Vikram immediately offers to help me create a simple technical document that explains what the spyware does in plain language that anyone can understand. We spend his whole lunch break working on it together on his laptop. He includes screenshots of the spyware permissions, diagrams showing how the screen mirroring works, and a clear timeline of when it was installed compared to when Danielle helped fix my phone. Having this technical validation from someone else, someone who actually understands this stuff, makes everything feel more real and more serious. After work that day, I meet with Lena at her office. She's reviewed all my documentation, and she helps me draft a no-contact letter to Danielle. We make it completely factual and unemotional, just listing specific incidents with dates and times and stating clearly that I want no further contact of any kind. Reading it over when we're done, I feel this strange mix of emotions. I'm proud of myself for standing up and setting boundaries, but I'm also sad that it's come to this with my boyfriend's sister. I never wanted to be the girlfriend who caused problems in his family. That evening when Noah gets home from work, I ask him if he'll go to couples counseling with me. I keep my voice as calm and reasonable as possible, trying not to sound accusatory or upset. I tell him that I love him so much, but I'm really struggling with how close he is to Danielle, and I think having a neutral third party could help us communicate better about boundaries. Noah's whole body goes stiff, and he pulls back from me on the couch, shaking his head before I even finish talking. His jaw tightens, and he starts saying how Danielle is going through such a hard time right now, and he can't just abandon her when she needs him most. I take a deep breath, and my hands are shaking, but I look him straight in the eyes and tell him that I need him to choose counseling with me, or I need to take some space from our relationship. My voice cracks a little on the word space, but I don't look away, and I don't take it back. Noah stares at me for a long moment, and I can see him fighting with himself, wanting to argue or explain or defend Danielle like he always does. But something in my face must tell him I'm serious this time, because he just nods slowly and says, "Okay, he'll think about it." I go to bed that night feeling sick to my stomach because thinking about it isn't the same as agreeing, but at least I said what I needed to say. The next morning, I wake up before Noah and grab my old compromised phone from where I've been keeping it in my nightstand. I open my email app and start typing a new message to myself with the subject line, "Police Evidence -Danielle" in all caps. I don't write anything in the body of the email, just save it as a draft without sending it. My heart is pounding because I know she's probably watching right now, seeing this draft appear on her mirrored screen, and I wonder if she'll panic enough to show up again. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter and start making coffee, trying to act normal even though I feel like I'm setting a trap that might actually work this time. I get to work around 9 and settle into my usual morning routine of checking emails and updating spreadsheets. Around 11, my desk phone rings, and it's the security guard downstairs saying there's someone here asking for me urgently, claiming it's a family emergency. My stomach drops because I know exactly who it is before he even says her name. I take the elevator down to the lobby, and there's Danielle standing by the front desk with tears streaming down her face, mascara smudged under her eyes. She looks desperate and angry at the same time, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. The security guard, an older guy with gray hair whose name tag says Arkin, looks uncomfortable standing between us. I walk up slowly and keep my face as blank as possible, even though my heart is racing so hard I can feel it in my throat. Danielle starts to move toward me, but I hold up my hand and tell her very clearly that I don't want to talk to her privately. My voice comes out steadier than I expected, and I say that if she has something to say, she can say it right here in the lobby with witnesses. She starts crying harder and reaches for my arm, but I step back and Arkin moves slightly closer to her. She's saying something about how I'm trying to turn Noah against her and how she just wants to talk. But her voice is getting louder and people walking through the lobby are starting to stare. Arkin asks her politely to leave, and when she doesn't move, he tells her more firmly that she needs to exit the building now. I make sure to look at his name tag again and check the time on my phone, taking a mental note that it's 11:14 on a Tuesday morning. Danielle finally turns and walks toward the doors, but she looks back at me with this expression that's half hurt and half threatening, and I feel cold all over, but I don't let it show on my face. I go straight back upstairs and grab my purse and tell my supervisor I need to leave for a personal emergency. I drive to the police station with my hands gripping the steering wheel too tight and walk inside asking for Officer Kenzie. She comes out to meet me in the waiting area, and we go back to a small room with a table and 2 chairs. I tell her everything about Danielle showing up at my workplace, about the draft email I created this morning, about how she showed up just 2 hours after I saved it. Kenzie writes it all down and adds it to my incident report, and then she looks up at me and says, "The pattern is definitely strong enough now to move forward with formal documentation." Hearing a police officer actually validate what I've been experiencing makes something loosen in my chest, and I realize I've been holding my breath waiting for someone in authority to tell me I'm not crazy or overreacting. Kenzie explains that the next step is sending Danielle a formal no-contact letter, so there's official documentation of my boundaries, and if she violates those boundaries after being formally notified, then we have grounds for a restraining order. I drive home feeling shaky but also weirdly calm, like I'm finally doing something real instead of just collecting evidence in secret. That evening, I sit at our kitchen table with my laptop and pull up the no-contact letter that Lena helped me draft last week. I read through it one more time, checking that all the dates and times are correct, that the language is clear and factual without being emotional. I print it out on our printer and sign it at the bottom with my full legal name. Then I fold it carefully and put it in an envelope, writing Danielle's address on the front in neat block letters. I I grab my keys and drive to the post office before it closes at 6, getting there with about 15 minutes to spare. The postal worker behind the counter is a middle-aged woman with glasses, and she explains how certified mail with return receipt works. She tells me that Danielle will have to sign for the letter when it's delivered, and I'll get a receipt back as proof that she received it. I pay the extra fees and watch her stamp the envelope and scan it into the system. When she hands me the tracking number receipt, I fold it up and put it in my wallet. And holding that little piece of paper makes me feel like I'm finally doing something concrete to protect myself, instead of just reacting to whatever Danielle does next. The tracking website shows the letter was delivered 2 days later on Thursday morning at 10:32. I check my phone obsessively all day waiting to see what Danielle will do. If she'll text Noah or show up somewhere or post something weird online. Friday morning, I'm drinking coffee and scrolling Instagram when I notice something strange. My notifications show that Danielle has liked about 30 of my old posts from 2 and 3 years ago, all within a 10-minute window between 7:15 and 7:25. I click through to see which posts and they're completely random. Pictures from college and family vacations and random selfies. Nothing recent or relevant. It's such obvious retaliation that I actually laugh out loud, this bitter sound that surprises me. But instead of getting upset, I just start screenshotting her activity, making sure the timestamps are visible in each image. I add them all to my evidence folder on my laptop with a note that says, retaliation via social media, 1 day after no contact letter delivery. I text Vikram that same afternoon and ask if he has time to help me set up a completely new phone and laptop. He says he can come over Sunday morning and brings his own laptop bag full of cables and external drives. We sit at my kitchen table for 3 hours while he transfers only the files and contacts I actually need to the new devices, leaving the old compromised phone completely untouched. He explains that he's making a complete forensic clone of the old phone's data and storing it on an encrypted external drive, preserving everything exactly as it is in case I need it for legal stuff later. Watching him work is calming somehow. Seeing someone who knows what they're doing take this seriously and treat it like the violation it actually is. When he's done, he puts the old phone in a plastic bag and labels it with the date and his initials, telling me to keep it somewhere safe and dry. The new phone feels weird in my hand, lighter somehow, and I realize it's because I'm not carrying around the weight of knowing someone is watching everything I do anymore. Over the next few days, I start noticing something new, and it makes my skin crawl. 2 of Noah's friends, guys he's known since high school, send me messages out of nowhere asking if everything is okay. One of them, Jake, says he heard I've been going through some stuff and wants to make sure I'm all right. The other one, Arkin, asks if Noah and I are having problems because someone mentioned I've been acting secretive lately. I screenshot both conversations and then check Danielle's Instagram to see if she's posted anything, but her account has gone completely quiet since the letter was delivered. That's when I realize she's moved to a different strategy now that her direct access to my phone is gone. She's trying to poison Noah's social circle against me, sending private messages with vague hints that make me sound untrustworthy or unstable. I respond to both guys saying everything is fine and thanks for checking in, keeping my messages short and normal. But inside, I'm furious because this is exactly the kind of thing that's hard to prove or document. Just careful manipulation that makes me look paranoid if I try to explain it. I spend an entire evening at my laptop creating a clean, organized PDF document that shows everything in one place. I start with a title page that just says evidence of surveillance and harassment with the date range. Then I create a timeline that shows each piece of bait I planted on the left side, with the exact date and time and Danielle's response on the right side with timestamps and screenshots. The fake pregnancy text and her arrival 15 minutes later with video footage from the hallway camera. The fake therapy appointment in my calendar and her Instagram story 23 minutes later. The fake dinner reservation, and her text to Noah about stomach cramps exactly 30 minutes before. The draft email about police evidence and her showing up at my office 2 hours later. Every single trap laid out in order with the proof right next to it. Then I add a section with Vikram's technical document explaining what the spyware does and when it was installed. Another section with the security footage and police reports. A final section with screenshots of her retaliatory behavior after the no-contact letter. When I'm done, the PDF is 42 pages long, and laying it all out like this makes the pattern impossible to deny. She's been watching my phone in real time for months, and I have proof of it that even Noah can't explain away with his excuses about sibling intuition or coincidence. I save the file with a password and email it to myself at 3 different email addresses, just to make sure I don't lose it. Then I sit back and look at the document on my screen and feel this weird mix of pride and sadness. Proud that I stood up for myself and documented everything so carefully, but sad that it had to come to this with my boyfriend's sister in the first place. I print out the certified mail receipt and hold it in my hand while I walk to the living room where Noah is watching TV. My stomach feels tight, but I keep my voice steady when I tell him we need to talk about counseling again, and I can see his shoulders go tense before I even finish the sentence. He starts to say something about how Danielle needs him right now, but I hold up the receipt and tell him this is my boundary. Counseling, or I need space from this relationship. The words come out firmer than I expected, and I watch his face change as he realizes I'm serious this time. He looks at the receipt for a long moment, his jaw working like he's trying to find the right words, and when he finally nods, his whole body looks tired in a way I've never seen before. He agrees to 1 session, just 1, and I can see in his eyes that part of him knows something is really wrong, but he's still too scared to face what that might mean about his sister. The next morning, I call Lena from my new phone and ask if she can do a conference call with Officer Kenzie to coordinate how I should present my evidence at the counseling session. Lena picks up on the second ring and immediately agrees, saying she'll loop Kenzie in within the hour. When the three of us are on the line together, I explain that Noah finally agreed to counseling, and I want to show him the evidence there with a neutral witness present. Kenzie asks if I'm worried about my safety, and I tell her no. I'm more worried about compromising any potential legal case if I present things wrong. Lena jumps in and says that having a therapist witness Noah's reaction to the evidence could actually strengthen my documentation of the pattern, showing that I tried to address this through proper channels before escalating further. They both walk me through exactly what to bring, how to present it calmly, and what to do if Noah gets defensive or tries to leave. By the time we hang up, I feel like I have a game plan instead of just panic. That afternoon, I pull out the old cloned phone that still has the spyware running, and I create one final test. I open a flight booking website and take a screenshot of a fake confirmation for a solo trip to visit my college roommate Ava next month, making sure the dates and flight numbers look completely real. I save the screenshot to my photos and add the trip to my calendar with notes about packing and what to bring Ava as a gift. Then I set the phone down on my kitchen counter and go make myself lunch, forcing myself to act normal even though my heart is racing. I check my watch every few minutes, counting down, waiting to see if Danielle will take the bait one more time. 18 minutes later, Noah's phone starts buzzing on the coffee table where he left it. I walk over and see his screen lighting up with message after message from Danielle, the notifications piling up so fast he can't possibly read them all. He picks up his phone looking confused and starts scrolling through, his eyebrows pulling together as he reads. She's sending him this flood of texts about how she can't handle him abandoning her, how she thought they were closer than this, how a whole week away is too much for her to bear right now. Noah looks up at me with this completely lost expression and asks if I'm planning a trip somewhere, because Danielle seems to think I'm leaving for a whole week. My fake booking was for 6 days, not 7. And I watch him stare at his phone trying to figure out how his sister could possibly know about a trip we never discussed. I tell him calmly that I was thinking about visiting Ava, but hadn't mentioned it to anyone yet, and I can see the gears turning in his head as he tries to make sense of the timing. 3 days later, we drive to the counseling office in separate cars because Noah has to go straight to work after. The building is this old converted house with a waiting room that smells like lavender, and I sit there with my folder of evidence on my lap, feeling like I might throw up. When the door opens, Joyce walks out and introduces herself. This calm woman in her 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. She leads us into her office and gestures to a couch, explaining that her job is to help us communicate more effectively, not to take sides. The room is small and comfortable with soft lighting and plants on the windowsill, and I feel this weird mix of nervousness and relief that we're finally here with someone neutral who can witness what I'm about to show Noah. Joyce asks us what brought us to counseling today, looking between us with this patient expression. I take a breath and pull out my printed timeline, the pages slightly crumpled from how tightly I've been gripping them. My hands are shaking just a little as I hand the document to Noah, and I explain as calmly as I can that I discovered spyware on my phone, and I've been documenting the pattern for the past 2 weeks. Noah takes the papers looking skeptical, and I watch his face as he starts reading the first page where Vikram laid out the technical explanation of what Family Safety Monitor does. His eyes move across the lines, and I can see his certainty starting to waver as he reads about camera access, deleted message recovery, real-time location tracking. Noah looks up at me with this expression that's half confused and half defensive, and he asks how Danielle could possibly know all these things, if it wasn't just coincidence or sibling intuition. His voice has that same protective edge it always gets when I bring up his sister. I don't say anything, just pull out my laptop and open the security camera footage that Aaron gave me. I angle the screen so both Noah and Joyce can see it clearly, and I play the clip of Danielle pacing outside our apartment door, checking her phone over and over. I point to the timestamp in the corner showing 8:32 p.m., then I pull up the screenshot of my fake pregnancy text to my mom stamped at 8:17 p.m. 15 minutes. Noah watches the video play, and I can see the exact moment when his certainty starts to crack, his mouth opening slightly like he wants to argue but can't find the words. Joyce leans forward slightly and starts talking in this gentle but firm voice about the difference between supporting someone and enabling harmful behavior. She explains what healthy boundaries with family members look like, using words like enmeshment and codependency that I've read about online, but never heard said out loud in relation to Noah and Danielle. I watch Noah struggling with this, his whole body tense, and I can tell his identity as Danielle's protector is being challenged in a way that makes him deeply uncomfortable. But he's listening, really listening, in a way he never has before when I've tried to talk about this. His eyes stay on Joyce and he nods occasionally, and I feel this tiny spark of something that might be hope. Right in the middle of Joyce's explanation about what enmeshment means, Noah's phone starts ringing in his pocket. He pulls it out and I see Danielle's name on the screen, and before he can answer, Joyce asks him gently if he can silence it and stay present in the session. The phone keeps ringing and Noah stares at it, his thumb hovering over the answer button. Then it stops and immediately starts ringing again. And again. 5 calls in a row, each one going to voicemail before the next one starts. Joyce repeats her request, her voice still calm but with a little more firmness, and I hold my breath waiting to see what Noah will do. He looks at the phone one more time, then hits the side button to silence it and puts it face down on the couch next to him. It keeps buzzing silently, but he doesn't pick it up, and I feel this wave of relief so strong it makes my eyes sting. After the session ends, we walk out to the parking lot in silence, both of us processing everything that just happened. Noah gets in his car but doesn't start it right away, just sits there staring at his steering wheel. I pull out the old cloned phone and open my messages, and I show Noah what I'm doing as I type a very specific phrase to myself, thinking about getting a dog next spring. I send it and show him the timestamp. Then I put the phone away and tell him to wait 20 minutes. We sit in our separate cars and I watch the clock on my dashboard tick forward, my heart beating hard in my chest. At exactly 19 minutes, Noah's phone lights up and he holds it up to show me through his windshield. Danielle has posted an Instagram story with a picture of a puppy. The caption reading, "Some people aren't ready for that kind of commitment," with 3 thinking face emojis. Noah just stares at his phone and doesn't say anything, but I can see from here that his hands are shaking. I turn to face him in the passenger seat and my whole body feels like it's vibrating with nervous energy. The words come out shaky but clear. "I need you to stop all contact with Danielle for 30 days while we work on us, or I'm moving out." Noah's head snaps toward me and I can see panic spreading across his face. His mouth opens but nothing comes out at first. I watch his hands grip the steering wheel even though the car isn't running, his knuckles going white. I know this is asking him to choose and I'm scared he'll pick her like he always has, but I can't keep living with someone watching my every move through my own phone. Noah closes his eyes and takes this long, shaky breath. When he opens them again, there are tears, but he nods once, just once, and says, "Okay." That single word feels like the ground shifting under me. We sit there for another 10 minutes in complete silence, both of us staring straight ahead through the windshield at the empty parking lot. Finally, Noah starts the car and we drive home separately, and I spend the whole drive gripping my steering wheel and trying not to cry, because I don't know if this is the beginning of something better or the beginning of the end. The next morning, I wake up early and gather every piece of evidence I've collected over the past 2 weeks. I print out the PDF timeline Vikram helped me create, burn the security camera footage onto a thumb drive, and organize all my screenshots into a folder with dates and times clearly labeled. My hands are steady as I pack everything into a manila envelope, which surprises me because inside I feel like I'm about to jump out of my skin. I drive to the police station and ask the front desk officer if Kenzie is available. She comes out 15 minutes later and leads me to a small interview room that smells like old coffee and cleaning solution. I spread everything out on the table between us and walk her through the whole timeline, starting with the spyware discovery and ending with yesterday's Instagram test. Kenzie takes notes on a yellow legal pad and asks me specific questions about dates and times. When I show her the video footage of Danielle pacing outside our door exactly 12 minutes after my fake pregnancy text, Kenzie's eyebrows go up. She tells me this is one of the most well-documented harassment cases she's seen in her 8 years as an officer. Hearing that from someone in law enforcement makes something tight in my chest finally loosen a little. We spend 90 minutes going through everything, and Kenzie types up a formal incident report while I sit there watching her fingers move across the keyboard. She prints it out and has me sign it, then files it in the system with a case number. Before I leave, she tells me she'll be calling Danielle this afternoon to document the harassment report and explain the potential consequences. I'm back home making lunch when my phone rings with Kenzie's number. She tells me she just got off the phone with Danielle and it went exactly as expected. Danielle spent the first 5 minutes crying and insisting this was all a big misunderstanding, that she was just worried about me and trying to be a good sister. Then she switched to anger, saying I was trying to destroy her relationship with Noah. Kenzie stayed calm and professional throughout, explaining that regardless of intention, the surveillance was illegal, and any further unwanted contact could result in criminal charges. She told Danielle that a formal harassment report had been filed and that she needed to cease all contact immediately. After Kenzie hangs up, I sit on my couch for a while just staring at my phone, waiting for the explosion I know is coming. It happens around 6 that evening. Noah comes home from work and his phone immediately starts buzzing with a text from Danielle. He shows it to me and my stomach drops even though I was expecting something like this. The message says she can't live without him, and she's going to hurt herself because he's abandoned her and chosen me over his own blood. I watch Noah's face go pale as he reads it. My first instinct is to grab my keys and tell him we need to go check on her, because that's what we've always done. But Noah is already opening a new message and I see his hands shaking as he types. He forwards Danielle's text to Kenzie's number with a brief explanation. Then he pulls up the crisis hotline number we found during our counseling session and sends that to Danielle in response. His whole body is trembling and there are tears running down his face, but he doesn't get in his car. He doesn't rush over to rescue her. He sits down on our couch next to me and puts his phone face down on the coffee table. I want to say something, but I don't know what. So instead, I just sit close to him while he cries. Kenzie calls back 40 minutes later to say she's arranged for a welfare check through the proper channels. We wait together on the couch, not talking, just existing in this horrible space where we don't know if Danielle is actually in danger or if this is another manipulation. An hour after that, we get a call from Kenzie confirming that officers went to Danielle's apartment and she's upset but physically safe. Noah's whole body sags with relief and guilt at the same time. I can see it written all over his face. This war between knowing he did the right thing and feeling like he abandoned his sister in a crisis. He keeps picking up his phone and putting it back down, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. But he doesn't call her and he doesn't drive over there. The pattern we've been trapped in for months, where Danielle creates a crisis and Noah drops everything to fix it, that pattern just broke. It doesn't feel good or triumphant like I thought it might. It just feels heavy and sad and necessary. The next morning, Noah and I sit at our kitchen table with our laptops and phones spread out between us. We spend 3 hours creating a complete security plan. New passwords for everything. Nothing recycled or similar to old ones. 2-factor authentication on every account that offers it. We set up new email addresses that Danielle has never seen and start migrating our important accounts. Noah suggests we create a shared password manager so we both have access to everything. No secrets. We write down an agreement that any communication from Danielle, no matter how it comes in, gets shared with both of us immediately. No more private conversations or texts that only one of us sees. We both sign it and date it, which feels weirdly formal but also important. For the first time since I discovered the spyware, I feel like Noah and I are actually on the same team, instead of him being pulled between his sister and his girlfriend. I spend the rest of that afternoon systematically changing every password I have. Banking, email, social media, streaming services, shopping accounts, everything. I create new email addresses using combinations of words Danielle would never guess. My main email becomes a completely random string of letters and numbers. I set up 2-factor authentication using my phone number and backup codes that I write down and hide in my desk drawer. Every account that offers biometric locks gets them turned on. My phone now requires my fingerprint and a 6-digit code. My laptop needs my fingerprint to even wake up. I'm building walls around my digital life that Danielle can't breach anymore. And with each password I change, I feel a little bit more like I'm taking back control. It takes me 4 hours to get through everything. And by the end, my eyes hurt from staring at screens, but I feel safer than I have in months. That evening, Noah and I sit together and write a text message to Danielle. We go through 7 drafts before we get the wording right. It needs to be clear and firm without being cruel. It needs to establish the boundary without leaving room for negotiation. The final version says he won't be responding to any contact for the next 30 days and provides only the crisis hotline number for emergencies. We define emergency as immediate physical danger. Nothing else. Noah's hand is shaking. So hard when he goes to hit send that I have to look away. I hear the swoosh sound of the message going through, and then Noah puts his phone down on the counter like it burned him. He stands there with his arms wrapped around himself, and I can see he's trying not to cry. I know how much this costs him, how deeply it goes against every instinct he has to protect his sister. But he did it anyway, and I'm proud of him, even though proud feels like a weird emotion to have about something this painful. Over the next few days, I check Danielle's Instagram periodically, just enough to screen for actual safety concerns. Her posts become this roller coaster of emotions that would be almost funny if it wasn't so concerning. First, there's a vague post about betrayal and people showing their true colors. Then 6 hours later, there's a bright, cheerful selfie with a caption about self-care and growth. The next day, it's an angry quote about fake people and toxic relationships. Then another cheerful post about trying a new restaurant alone and loving it. The whiplash is intense. I screenshot everything with timestamps, but I don't engage and I don't share the post with anyone except Noah. Joyce talked about disengagement in our session, about how sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop participating in someone else's chaos. So I practice that art of watching without reacting, documenting without engaging, staying aware without getting pulled back in. 2 weeks after we set the no-contact boundary, I meet Lena at the same coffee shop where we first talked. She's already there when I arrive, sitting at a corner table with a stack of papers in front of her. I order a coffee and sit down across from her. Lena explains that the next step is sending a formal civil cease and desist letter that specifically demands deletion of any data Danielle obtained through the spyware. She shows me a draft she's prepared using legal language about unauthorized access to electronic communications and violation of privacy rights. The letter lists every piece of evidence we have and demands that Danielle immediately delete all data, photos, messages, and information she obtained through the surveillance. It also demands that she provide written confirmation of deletion. Lena explains that having this formal legal documentation is important because it's not just about stopping future harm, it's about addressing the violation that already happened. My data, my private messages and photos and searches, they're still out there on whatever device Danielle used to mirror my phone. Getting legal language around data deletion feels crucial. Like I'm not just protecting my future privacy, but also reclaiming my past privacy that was stolen from me. That night, I text Vikram asking if he can help me put together a technical document that explains all the spyware stuff in a way that lawyers and judges could understand. He responds within 5 minutes saying he's free tomorrow evening, and I should bring my laptop with all the evidence files. The next evening, I meet him at a quiet library study room, and he's already set up with his own laptop and a legal pad covered in notes. We spend 3 hours going through everything I found on my phone, with Vikram typing up explanations about what each permission means and how the mirroring process works. He creates screenshots with arrows pointing to specific settings and writes descriptions like, "This permission allows real-time camera access without user notification," in language that sounds official, but isn't too technical. By the time we finish, we have a 12-page appendix that lists every single thing the spyware could do, when it was installed, and all the steps I've taken since to secure my devices. Vikram saves it as a PDF and emails it to both me and himself as backup. Then he looks at me and says he's really proud of how I've handled this whole situation. I thank him about 5 times because without his help, I would have been completely lost trying to explain the technical side of things, and I promise to buy him dinner somewhere really nice once this is all over. 3 weeks after our first counseling session, Noah and I go back to see Joyce. This time the room feels less tense. Maybe because we both know what to expect, or maybe because we've been doing better at home. Joyce starts by asking how the past few weeks have been, and I tell her about the no-contact boundary with Danielle, and how Noah has actually stuck to it. Joyce nods and says that today she wants to focus on something called surveillance trauma, which is apparently a real thing that happens when someone's privacy gets violated like mine did. She asks me to describe how I felt when I first discovered the spyware, and I try to put it into words, talking about feeling exposed and violated and like I couldn't trust my own space anymore. Noah sits there listening, and I can see his jaw getting tight. But this time it's not defensive anger. It's more like he's finally understanding how serious this was. Joyce turns to him and asks how he's been processing everything, and he admits that he's been having a hard time with the guilt, knowing his sister did this and that he didn't see it happening. We talk for almost an hour about trust and boundaries and what it means to rebuild after something like this, and it hurts, but it also feels like we're finally being completely honest with each other instead of dancing around the hard stuff. About halfway through the session, Joyce asks Noah directly about his relationship with Danielle before I came into the picture. He shifts in his seat and looks down at his hands before saying that Danielle was basically his best friend and main support person for years. He talks about how after their dad left when they were teenagers, he kind of stepped into this protective role, and Danielle leaned on him for everything. Joyce listens carefully, and then asks if he thinks that dynamic was healthy for either of them, and Noah goes quiet for a long minute before admitting that it probably wasn't. He says he's starting to realize that he let Danielle fill a role she shouldn't have been in, and that by trying to protect her from everything he actually made it harder for her to develop her own coping skills. Joyce writes something on her notepad, and then pulls out a referral card for a therapist who specializes in family enmeshment and codependency issues. She hands it to Noah and suggests he might benefit from working through some of this stuff individually, and instead of immediately saying no like I expected, he actually takes the card and says he'll think about it. That small moment of him considering therapy for himself feels huge, like maybe he's finally ready to work on the patterns that got us here. 2 days later, I'm at work when my phone rings with a number I recognize as the police station. I step into an empty conference room and answer, and it's Officer Kenzie calling with an update. She tells me that my report has been officially logged into their system and assigned a case number, which means it's now part of the permanent record. Kenzie explains that if Danielle violates any of the boundaries we've established, we now have really strong grounds for pursuing a restraining order because the pattern is documented. She also tells me to keep all my evidence organized and accessible for at least 6 months, and to report any new incidents immediately, no matter how small they seem. Hearing Kenzie say that the police are taking this seriously, and that we have options if Danielle escalates again, makes me feel safer than I have in months. I thank her and write down the case number in my phone. Then I sit in that conference room for a few extra minutes, just breathing and letting myself feel relieved that the system is actually working the way it's supposed to. The following week, I meet with Lena at her actual law office instead of the coffee shop. Her office is small but professional, with law books lining one wall and a big desk covered in neat stacks of papers. She's printed out the cease and desist letter we drafted along with Vikram's technical appendix, and everything is formatted on official letterhead from her firm. Lena walks me through each section, pointing out the specific language about data deletion and unauthorized surveillance, and my legal rights under state privacy laws. The letter demands that Danielle immediately delete all data she obtained through the spyware, provide written confirmation of deletion, and cease all contact and monitoring. It also includes a clear notice that I'm aware of my legal options and prepared to pursue them if necessary. Lena explains that sending it through her law office instead of just from me personally carries more weight because it shows I have legal representation. I sign the authorization form, and Lena says she'll have it sent via certified mail that afternoon. Watching her seal the envelope and write out Danielle's address feels like I'm drawing a line in the sand that Danielle can't cross without facing real legal consequences, and that feeling of taking official action is both scary and empowering at the same time. For the next week, I check the mail tracking obsessively, watching as the letter makes its way to Danielle's apartment, and then shows as delivered with her signature confirming receipt. After that, I brace myself for some kind of dramatic response, maybe more Instagram posts or texts to Noah or even her showing up somewhere. But instead, what happens is complete silence. Danielle's Instagram goes private overnight, and when I check her profile through a backup account I created, I can see she's stopped posting entirely. No more vague quotes, no more childhood photos of her and Noah, nothing. Noah tells me she hasn't texted or called him either, which is wild considering she used to message him multiple times a day. The silence is almost eerie after weeks of constant boundary violations and surveillance and manufactured emergencies. Part of me wonders if it's just the calm before another storm, but another part of me thinks maybe the formal legal intervention actually worked. Either way, I'll take this uneasy peace over active harassment any day, even if I'm still checking over my shoulder and monitoring my devices obsessively. A few days after the letter was delivered, I take my old compromised phone to Vikram during our lunch break. He set up a small workspace in an unused office, and he's brought an official evidence bag and label from some forensics kit he apparently owns. Vikram carefully places the phone in the bag, seals it, and writes the date and a description on the label in permanent marker. He explains that he's going to store it in a fireproof safe at his apartment where it'll be protected but accessible if I ever need it for legal proceedings. Watching him lock the bag in a small portable safe and then put that safe in his backpack feels weirdly symbolic. like I'm putting this whole nightmare into a box where it can't hurt me anymore. The phone that Danielle used to watch my every move is now sealed away as evidence of what she did. And knowing it's preserved but out of my daily life gives me this sense of closure, even though I know the situation isn't fully resolved yet. Over the next couple weeks, Noah starts going to individual therapy sessions with the counselor Joyce recommended. Every Thursday evening, he leaves for his appointment and comes back an hour later, looking tired but also somehow lighter. He doesn't tell me details about what he discusses, and I don't ask because Joyce helped us understand that we both need some privacy even from each other. But Noah does share his appointment times with me and sends me a quick text when each session ends, which feels like his way of being accountable without oversharing. I appreciate that he's respecting both his own privacy and mine, and it feels like we're slowly learning how to have healthy boundaries with each other, instead of either being completely enmeshed or completely separate. Some evenings after his therapy, he's quiet and needs space, and other evenings he wants to talk about random stuff like what movie we should watch or what we should cook for dinner. I'm learning to follow his lead and give him room to process whatever he's working through without taking it personally. 5 weeks after I first discovered the spyware on my phone, I spend an evening alone in our apartment while Noah is at his therapy session. I sit on the couch with a cup of tea and really think hard about whether I want to stay in this relationship or leave. Part of me is still angry about how long it took him to see what Danielle was doing and how much he rationalized her behavior. Part of me is scared that even with all these boundaries and therapy sessions, he might fall back into old patterns. But another part of me sees how hard he's been working to change, how he's actually going to therapy every week and respecting the no-contact rule even when Danielle sent that scary text about hurting herself. I think about the life we've built together and the plans we made before Danielle's surveillance took over everything. After sitting there for almost 2 hours, I decide to give us 60 more days with these non-negotiable boundaries we've established. I'm choosing to trust myself to walk away if things don't continue improving, rather than making a decision based on fear or anger about what already happened. It's not a forever commitment, and it's not me saying everything is fine, but it's me giving both of us a real chance to see if we can build something healthy together. The next morning, Officer Kenzie calls me with another update. She tells me there have been no new incidents reported and no violations of the boundaries we established, which means Danielle is actually respecting the no-contact order. Kenzie says the fact that Danielle went completely silent after receiving the cease and desist letter is actually a good sign because it shows she understood the legal implications and chose to back off. She advises me to keep my documentation organized and accessible for 6 months just in case, but she seems cautiously optimistic that the formal intervention worked. Kenzie also reminds me to report anything immediately if Danielle does try to make contact again, no matter how small or innocent it seems. I thank her and hang up feeling this weird mix of relief and lingering anxiety, because part of me still can't quite believe that Danielle is really going to leave us alone after months of obsessive surveillance and interference. But the evidence suggests she is, and I'm trying to let myself feel hopeful about that, instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop. That weekend, Noah and I sit at the kitchen table with his laptop open to a state park's website, scrolling through options that are within 2 hours driving distance. I point to one with hiking trails and a lake. Nothing fancy, but somewhere we can spend the day together without worrying about who might show up or what might get posted online. He nods and clicks through the photos, then looks at me and asks if I want to do this, really do this, and I tell him yes. We agree right then on 2 rules, no exceptions. First, we check in with each other if either of us feels weird or uncomfortable about anything. Second, we post absolutely nothing on social media, not even after we get back. I watch him type the park name into his phone calendar and add both rules in the notes section, and something about seeing him write it all down makes this feel real and possible. The night before the trip, I pack a small backpack with water bottles and snacks, and I catch myself smiling while I'm doing it. It's such a simple thing, planning a day trip to a state park, but after months of canceled dinners and ruined vacations and constant surveillance, simple feels like everything. I zip up the backpack and set it by the door, and for the first time in forever, I'm genuinely excited about something Noah and I are going to do together. The next morning, while I'm getting dressed in comfortable clothes for hiking, I look at my new phone sitting on the dresser and think about how far I've come in the past 6 weeks. My devices are completely secure now with new passwords and 2-factor authentication on everything. I have a full legal paper trail with police reports and cease and desist letters and documented evidence that no one can explain away. Noah goes to therapy every single week, and he's actually working on his boundary issues instead of just talking about them. Danielle hasn't sent a single text or made any kind of contact in over a month, which still makes me nervous sometimes but also gives me hope that maybe she finally got the message. I'm sleeping through the night now without waking up paranoid that someone is watching me through my camera. I feel safer in my own relationship, like it actually belongs to me and Noah instead of being something his sister controlled from the shadows. I'm proud of myself for standing up and demanding the respect I deserved instead of just accepting the situation. Noah and I talked last night about maybe trying to plan Costa Rica again in 6 months if things stay stable like this, and I actually let myself imagine it this time. I can picture us on that trip together, just the 2 of us, without anyone sabotaging it or showing up or having a convenient emergency. The relationship I fought so hard to protect is finally starting to feel like it's really ours, and that's worth everything I went through to get here.